3:27 a.m. That number is burned into my brain. That was the exact minute my phone lit up like a siren in the dark, dragging me out of a half-dream into a storm I didn't sign up for. And the crazy part, it wasn't an emergency call, not from family, not from the police. It was the damn HOA. They wanted me to drive 2 hours back home in the middle of a thunderstorm just to hand over the keys to my gate, so their truck could park under my carport. That one phone call. It started a war that would end with our HOA president humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood. I was out of town that night staying at a cheap roadside motel, the kind of place that smells like old carpet and rainwater. I remember lying there half asleep, rain tapping on the window, peaceful for once. Then my phone buzzed. I squinted at the screen, HOA Compliance Committee. My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from those words. I answered with the groggy voice of a man who's barely had 3 hours of sleep. "Hey," I croaked, "what's going on?" And then I heard her. Melissa. Sweet, chirpy Melissa, the HOA's compliance officer, sounding way too awake for that hour. "We need your gate keys," she said, like she was asking for a cup of sugar. Now. I sat up so fast I hit my elbow on the nightstand. "My gate keys." "It's 3 in the morning, Melissa." "It's urgent," she said. "The HOA maintenance truck needs to be parked somewhere dry, and your carport's closest to the entrance. Rhett's already waiting outside your gate." Rhett. That's Kendra's husband, our HOA president's muscle in khakis, the guy who thinks owning a pickup makes him king of the block. I rubbed my face and said, "Melissa, that's my private property. I'm out of town. I'm not driving 2 hours back so Rhett can park his damn truck." For a second there was silence on the line. Then her tone changed crisp, cold, condescending. "You do realize refusal to cooperate during an emergency is a violation, right?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. "A wet truck is an emergency now." She didn't answer, just hung up. A minute later my phone buzzed again, a text from Rhett. A photo of my locked gate, his truck headlights blazing through the rain. Caption, "Open your gate now." Then came the voicemail. Kendra herself, syrupy sweet but dripping with threat. "Under the bylaws, we're allowed to act in the community's best interest. If you don't comply, it will be documented." Documented. That word hit harder than it should have. That's how they get you paperwork, fines, official warnings. They don't need force when they've got forms. Still, I wasn't budging. I called the non-emergency police line, explained what was happening. "They're threatening to enter my private property," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The dispatcher told me they'd log the report and send a car if things escalated. I hung up thinking maybe that would be enough. It wasn't. A few minutes later I got a motion alert from my backyard camera. I opened the app, rain pouring down the gate, rattling. Then through the grainy night vision I saw a hooded figure walking up my driveway. Rhett. Testing the lock. My lock. I felt my blood boil. I texted him on the spot. I called the police. "Leave my property now." He froze, then hustled back to his truck. The door slammed so hard it echoed through the feed. Red taillights flared, then vanished into the night. I didn't sleep a damn minute after that. I just sat there watching the rain, thinking about how far these people were willing to go to prove they were in charge. By sunrise, I'd already made a folder, screenshots, timestamps, emails, everything. I'd dealt with HOA nonsense before. You don't fight them with emotion, you fight with receipts. Still, when the violation notice hit my inbox at 9 a.m., accusing me of failure to cooperate during an emergency, something inside me cracked. I read it 3 times. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being difficult. I imagined Kendra standing at that next meeting, smiling that tight, fake smile, telling everyone how I'd refused to help the community. Maybe I should have just let them park the truck. Would have saved me the headache. For a moment I actually believed that. I sat there staring at the email, wondering if I was the bad guy in this story. Maybe pride had gotten the better of me. But then I remembered the video, Rhett rattling my gate in the rain, his hand gripping the metal like he owned it. That wasn't community. That was trespassing. That was power abuse wrapped in the language of neighborliness. I snapped out of it. I drafted a response, short, sharp, and ice cold. cited the exact line in the covenant's emergency powers applied only to common property, not private yards. And I added word for word, any further attempt to enter my property without consent will be treated as trespass under state law. Send. Not long after my neighbor Lucia texted me. She works early shifts at the hospital, said she'd seen the HOA truck driving by around 4 a.m. Looked sketchy, she wrote. So I dragged my trash bin in front of your gate, my little barricade. She even sent a photo trash bin brick on top her version of home defense. For the first time in days, I laughed. Then Saul, a retired teacher down the block, called. Told me about the time Kendra made him take down his wind chimes for being too cheerful. Another neighbor whispered that Rhett used the maintenance truck for personal errands, hauling patio furniture, groceries, even a grill once. Suddenly I wasn't alone. This wasn't just me versus Kendra. It was us versus an HOA that had forgotten who it served. A week later, the board summoned me for a hearing. It was supposed to be formal, procedural, whatever, but everyone knew it was theater. The clubhouse was packed that night. Fluorescent lights buzzing, folding chairs squeaking, the air thick with curiosity. Kendra sat dead center, Rhett beside her, arms crossed, smug as ever. Melissa wore a scarf that probably cost more than my monthly dues. The other board members nodded along like trained pigeons. Kendra called the meeting to order. We're here to address Mr. Adams's violation, failure to cooperate with board directives during an emergency situation. I stood holding my folder. My palms were sweating, but my voice was steady. Before you continue, I said I'd like to enter some evidence into record. I spread the papers across the table. The 3:27 a.m. call log screenshots of their texts, the police report, even a printout of the bylaws. Line by line, I laid it out. Kendra tried to interrupt, smiling that patronizing smile. Sir, the truck carried supplies for the community. The maintenance bay was full. It wasn't, I cut in. The clubhouse overhang was empty. That's where you parked it. Later that morning, there was no emergency. You tried to trespass on private property. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A few neighbors nodded. Someone even chuckled. Kendra's smile twitched. Melissa chimed in, sugary as ever. You could have just helped, you know. We're all neighbors here. Why make enemies? I looked her dead in the eye. Being neighborly is watering plants when someone's out of town, not handing over your house keys at 3 in the morning so someone's husband can keep his tools dry. That one landed. A few people clapped softly. And then the property manager, the one guy who actually knew the rules, cleared his throat. For the record, he said the documents are clear. Emergency powers do not extend to private property. I recommend rescinding this violation. You could see the color drain from Kendra's face. She huddled with the others, whispering, stalling, trying to salvage something. But eventually she muttered the words everyone was waiting for. The violation will be rescinded. For a second I thought that was it. I thought the storm had passed. But bullies don't quit when they lose. They just change tactics. A week later I got served. A small claims lawsuit from the HOA. They were suing me for damages due to non-cooperation. It was laughable, but it wasn't about winning. It was about intimidation, about draining my time, my energy, my money. What they didn't expect was that I'd kept everything. Every screenshot, every email, every timestamp. I walked into that courtroom armed to the teeth with facts. Kendra was there, all pearls and poise. Rhett sat behind her, jaw tight. Their lawyer tried to sound confident, spinning the story into some civic duty nonsense. When it was my turn, I didn't grandstand. I just showed the evidence, the photos, the police report, and a clip of Rhett unloading patio pavers from the HOA truck the same week. The judge listened quietly, flipping through the documents. Then he looked up, deadpan. Homeowners associations have authority, he said, not sovereignty. He dismissed the case, ordered them to cover my costs. That was the nail in their coffin. Word spread fast. Neighbors who'd been scared to speak up finally did. Turns out everyone had their own Kendra story. Within days, a recall petition started circulating. By the end of the month, there was a special meeting. The clubhouse was packed again, only this time the energy was different. Voices were loud, angry, unafraid. Ballots dropped one after another. When the count came in, Kendra was out. So was her secretary. Rhett sat there red-faced, staring at the floor. The new board promised reforms. No more midnight calls, no more personal use of HOA vehicles, no more trespassing, period. When it was over, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just walked out into the cool night breathing easier than I had in months. Later that evening, I checked my security camera one last time. The rain was falling again, steady and soft. My gate was closed, my lock untouched. No headlights, no shadows, no phone calls at 3:27 a.m. And for the first time since that night, the silence felt good. Because the truth is, victory doesn't always sound like cheering. Sometimes it's just the quiet you fought for, finally staying quiet. Lesson learned: boundaries matter, and when you stand firm, even the loudest bullies learn where the line really is.